We all have that little sparkle inside of us saying, you can do more, like we have these wishes.
I'm sure you, as well as I, and many of the listeners have had moments in our journey where we don't know what the future looks like and we pause. And the book is about shining a light on all of the wonderful things that can happen when you dare to pivot, that it's okay to evolve, it's okay to change, it's okay to be one thing or the other thing. Welcome to the Spotlight series, season 2 of the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast, where each week we meet one of the brilliant co-authors and creatives behind Spotlight on Success, the PerformerPreneur book that's redefining what success looks like both in and out of the showbiz spotlight. I'm your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and in these special episodes we learn even more about the stories behind the sequins, raw, honest, powerful reminders that the end of one act is only the beginning of another. So listen in as we chat challenges and triumphs and inspire you to shine in any spotlight you like. Hello everybody and welcome. Today's guest is Bunny the Divine, a burlesque visionary, choreographer, mentor who helps women rediscover themselves through the art of performance. From a modest upbringing in Brazil to headlining global stages, Bunny's journey is one of fierce self-belief and rule-breaking reinvention. In her chapter, she shares how she found her fire, claimed her space, and rewrote the narrative that she was handed. It's not just about performance for Bunny, it's about permission to shine, to grow, and to live on your own terms. Please welcome to the spotlight the fabulous, award-winning Bunny the Divine.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to start this series with you, Bunny. For those just tuning in, this is the Spotlight series of the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast. And it's all about the co-authors inside our PerformerPreneur collaboration book, Spotlight on Success. Bunny, your chapter, oh my goodness, your chapter is titled You Are Allowed. And it opens the section 2 of this collaboration book. Section 2 is called Rewriting Success, and your Spotlight chapter opens that so beautifully. Talk us through your title choice and the message entwined in your story.
Yeah, so I feel like I chose this title at the very end. So the whole process, you start writing about your chapter, you have some guidelines, and as I started writing, I was 100% sure my chapter was going to be about something. And as I start writing, I realize, well, actually, it's not it. And then I keep writing, and then I'm like, okay, so I know it's about this thing. And I keep writing and reviewing and going back to it, back and forth. And I'm like, well, actually, it wasn't that. It was something else that I was meant to say. And until we got to the very end, and I think a few paragraphs before the last one, I mentioned you're allowed. And at the very end, I'm like, well, that's actually it. It's about telling people you are allowed to do whatever you want to do and not the script you were given, actually. It's not, you're not playing someone else's play, It's your own life, it's different from the stage where you might have to follow, some guidelines. No, actually, you're allowed to do anything you want because it's your life. Yeah, I think it came from that. And the main message is it comes from teaching. So I have a burlesque studio, and I remember the first time it came to me, I was teaching a group of women. And very often I teach them some things like a Mary Monroe kind of style and look. And they start laughing, and they are always with the same question. Why it looks so good when you do it, but it doesn't look good when I do it? And they usually look great. They just don't see it. And then I realize it's not that they don't see it, they don't allow themselves to see it, because we see that in other people. We see that, like, oh my God, she looks amazing, she looks perfect, she looks beautiful, she looks sexy. But we don't look at ourselves and naturally think, oh my God, I look sexy. So I remember telling them for the first time, and now I say that often actually in class, you are allowed to come see yourself in the mirror and think you are the sexiest woman to have walked the earth. That's totally fine. You can do that. And this is thing we have to allow ourselves to do. So I think it came from these two things. It's something that happens in class, it happens on stage, you allow yourself to shine, and it happens in life itself.
Amazing. And you've spoke there about the process, thinking the process was going to uncover one thing, or knowing that the narrative was something, but the actual process that Louisa took us through, the book writing coach, opened up so many more questions, opened up so many more thoughts. Is there anything that didn't make it into your chapter? So we'll go back and talk more about the process in the chapter, but we only had so many words. Is there anything that didn't make it in that you would like the listeners to know by the end of this podcast?
Oh, wow. Yes. It's interesting because the when you decide to write something, it's a picture of the past at that very moment in your life. And that's very interesting because we grow, we evolve, life goes on. So even when I read back my chapter right now, and I just wrote it like a few months ago, I have sometimes a new point of view over the things I'm telling in that chapter. So, for example, so much has happened. I had no idea. I'm opening right now my second studio. By the time this podcast comes out, probably I'll have opened my second studio already. And I had no idea that was going to happen when I signed up for that. And because that's such a big step, um, yeah, I would say I wish people could see more of that. I think even though I had twice, as many words that I could use than everybody else because of my chapter choice, still, I feel like that's frozen in time now. And I wish I could invite people to join this journey from their own. Like, where am I going to be? What is going to happen next? So, what are the new messages, and new lessons and things that I will learn and would love to share with people? So, yeah, things that are out, but I don't think they could be in anyway. They're in the future.
I love that. No, you're absolutely right. And the people that have joined this collaboration are the game changers, are the ones that are happy to talk about this evolution and this change. And that's what the book's premise is about, trying to shine a spotlight and open people's eyes to the fact that we don't have to, like you so wonderfully said in the opening of this podcast, you don't have to stick to the script you were given. You don't have to stay on the path that you were brought up to potentially follow. You can rewrite it. You are allowed, and the future is not necessarily what you expect. And if we could all move into the future and see how wonderful it is there, we might not be so hesitant, Bunny. And I'm sure you, as well as I, and many of the listeners, have had moments in our journey where we don't know what the future looks like, and we've paused. And the book is about shining a light on all of the wonderful things that can happen when you dare to pivot, to evolve. And so that's so brilliant. You mentioned that you were handed a certain script. Now, I know you very well as a client and a friend, and I know that script was derived by the fact that you lived and were brought up in Brazil, and that's a very different script to what I might have been given in the UK. Do you want to elaborate on that? What potentially that could have looked like, and where you said no, and when you stepped past that path that you were given?
Yeah, it took quite a while. Because I feel like, yeah, there's so many things that bring us from the day we were born, right, into different circumstances. So that's something that's actually not in the chapter, but I was born in like a very poor neighborhood, in São Paulo. And I was actually 7 hours late because my mom's water broke. But the hospital wouldn't take her in unless my grandmother would sign a check or whatever. And then they kept my mom there with her water broke for 7 hours because they were waiting, for her check or whatever. And apparently today that's forbidden. They can't do that anymore because it's dangerous. But it's very interesting because then I was born of a C-section. And because of the time I waited inside her belly, I had kind of a lump on my head which was interesting because when they brought the baby for her to feed and see, the baby didn't have a lump. And she was like, "That's not my daughter. My daughter had a lump on her head." And they had mixed it up, was up. So I was like, "Oh my God, what could have happened there?" You know?
My goodness.
I know it's crazy, and then they brought me to my mom and everything went fine. But when I think of that, it gets me so angry, because how come you play with someone's life because a check won't go through, like sounds so unreal nowadays. So from that moment on, and if you think from the moment I was born, it was already like that, people telling you, well, this is where you were born, this is what your life is going to be like. There isn't much you can do about it anyway. And that was repeated to me in different ways. And of course, not even using words, just by people looking at you, and I couldn't afford the same clothes that they could. Or like we read people, we make judgments. So I was told this story directly and indirectly in many ways, and I even started telling myself this story because I remember when I met um who was it, I think my best friend, my second best friend, because my first best friend went to another school and we couldn't go together again because I couldn't afford the school she went to. Um, I remember they saying, "Yeah, well, this is gonna be our life, that's it. This is as good as it gets." And then I was like, "Oh well, it's okay, we struggle a little, but oh well, what can I do?" And you see no way out of that. Um, until I don't know, and it's very difficult to point out because when I really, really look into the details, I was a little rebel already. So there was something in me saying, no, you can do more. And having that in mind as I wrote my story, I think it came already from my family. And that's something that I wanted to write in my chapter as well. I'm not sure I expressed that enough. But my family had these hard conditions, and still they made choices to try and make something better out of their lives. So that is in the chapter, that my mom left to go to Japan to look for a place to work and find a better life for herself, and for me, to afford my education and so on. So I think there might be something with this little sparkle, and of course, it was in my family, but I dare to say it's in human beings. Like we all have that little sparkle inside of us saying, you can do more, like we have these wishes. And I'm a firm believer that if I want something, it's not for nothing. Because there are things I don't want. There are things that I look and I'm like, I don't care. But there are things that I look and they sparkle this desire in you. And I'm like, why would I get this sparkle if I'm not meant to have it? So I think I just started following that and a little from my blood because my mom did it. And I was like, well, I'll do that too. And now hopefully inspiring other people, to do the same.
You are absolutely inspirational. And to have your story, and like you say, a very small snippet of it because of the word count, to have that in the book is an absolute privilege, Bunny, because the journey you've been on, the background you're from, and the future that you're creating is so enormously diverse that I just think it's got to speak to every single person that reads it on some level. And so let's talk about where you are going next, what you are creating. So we know where you've been, we know you where you were at the moment of writing the chapter, and you've just alluded to opening a second studio, traveling the world as a burlesque performer, award-winning burlesque performer. These things probably feel millions of miles away from that humble beginning in Brazil. And the message that we want people reading and listening to know and believe and be inspired by is that exactly that you can go in any which way you would like. So what is the future of Bunny looking like? What have you got your heart set on next?
Well, there is something I realized, and that's actually not in the book because it happened after, which is, and we talk a lot about it. That's very interesting for the PerformerPreneur group. Um, by reading other people's chapters, I realized that, interesting enough, I know maybe there is one other person who is kind of similar to this, but most people came from performing first and then finding, their side hustle and other things to do. And I think that's also in your opening chapter, right? For me, they kind of almost came together. So for most of my life, I had a different job. I was a freelancer and an English teacher. And then my life changed. And then I started having my business and performing at the same time, pretty much. So there is a lot of performing that's still to happen in my life. So I haven't done the whole performing. I'm like, okay, now I want to do something else. It's more like my business supports my performing career. So these two go hand in hand together. And one thing that I realized that's very important, and I'm building my future on top of that, is that I am not a business. I'm a person and I have a business. And that's very important to me because I want to bring together, I created, and I'm so proud of that because I have these women around me who are like my community, my girls in the performance troupe at the studio. And we are so it's really like a family. And it sounds a bit cringe, when people say that, but it's so true. Everybody feels so comfortable being themselves. And even I've been like, I am an introvert, big introvert. But I've always been so wary of showing myself. One of the things that introverts have is that we are very sensitive. So we are always afraid, of showing ourselves to people authentically because we can get hurt very easily. And for the first year in my business, I was hiding, and I don't want anybody in, like I was shut down, everybody's out. And I realized that the more I allow people to know me, the more I create this environment that I want for the future, because then people treat me as a person and not as a business. And I don't want to be treated as a business ever. So I think the future holds that, hopefully a growing community that people can just come and be themselves and their sparkly selves and crazy selves and feel comfortable in all things in life. And that's something I've been working on also that's coming in the future. I just met someone and she coaches performers to go on stage and perform their best. And one of the things I noticed in her classes is she's not afraid of conflict, which many people I know they are. And we don't allow ourselves to have strong opinions, or piss people off or whatever, or feel angry at stuff. We hide those feelings so much. That's definitely one of the next steps as well, because I want to love and be loved as a full human being. Sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm moody, and I want to allow, again, I allow always my girls to do the same and my community to do the same. So all of those things, it's a lot.
It's brilliant. And there was many things that you said there that really resonated. Performerpreneur, that's who's hosting the book. That's the power behind the book. It's exactly that. We're meeting you, listeners, clients, friends, performers, entrepreneurs at the very place you're at. And you might be through the performing stage door, the other side, and want to be fully fledged business owner entrepreneur. You might be a business owner entrepreneur who's actually got a spark for performing and you want to go the other way. And just being surrounded by a community of people who have insight into both worlds. And then there's these people in the middle that are performerpreneurs. They're still performing, they've got businesses. But I think ultimately, Bunny, and it's the title of the book, Spotlight on Success, with the tagline of when passion meets purpose. And I think ultimately you've just said all of the things that I resonate with in terms of it's not written. It's not a strict rule book or strategy. It's individual and personal, and it's where passion meets purpose. And your passion and your purpose shine through your chapter. They shine through this conversation. You want to build communities. You want to make women feel empowered. You want to perform. There's so many facets of us as human beings. And I think the biggest drive for me to bring this book together at the beginning was exactly that. I can only speak from my point of view. And it might resonate with one person. It might resonate with 100 people. But if I bring 13 other people with me to speak from their point of view, we're going to ripple and reach so many more people, but all with the same message that it's okay to evolve. It's okay to change. It's okay to be one thing or the other thing. It's all okay. And I think within the performing industry, we get very much sidelined into thinking that we've made a decision and we have to stick to it. And that's what life's going to look like. So that's the reason why I brought everyone together, because it's so different from everyone's perspective. But ultimately, passion and purpose will bring out the very best in you.
Yes, yes, 100%. Yes.
So, in terms of the book writing process, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster.
It was a loaded question because I knew it was a roller coaster for you. So it was loaded, like it was a roller coaster. Do you want to talk us through that and the process and the joy or the discomfort actually about writing that chapter?
Yeah, so I set myself, it was, yeah, things just aligned, right? So when I decided that 2025 was going to be my healing year, and actually, I think I did sign up for the book even before, but I think I was already, getting ready, for that. I knew what was my year was going to be about. And then I thought, well, writing the book, because actually, and this is something I still, yeah, I would say it's not finished. I know there is more to come. I live in Switzerland now, and it's the country of my dreams. It's like I go out and I fall in love every day. I live in like my dream country. And I have a huge dislike of Brazil. And it's very funny because most Brazilians I know actually like Brazil and left for other reasons, family or whatever, or they wish, they could be back, or they go back and they're happy, to go back every now and then. So most Brazilians you meet, they will say fond things about Brazil. Not me. And this is something I've always wanted to deal with. So in my healing year, I was like, well, writing my story, and then maybe going back to what it was to grow up in Brazil and go through all of those things, that will definitely help. And I remember starting, and then I didn't want to do that anymore. I actually never mentioned because I knew it was temporary. And I was like, okay, today I don't want to do that anymore, but I'm happy to do it. So just bringing these memories back, it was very uncomfortable at times, especially because, and that might be in the chapter, I'm very positive. You can probably, even if you're just listening to the podcast, you can hear me smiling through the whole thing, right? People hear my smile through my voice, even if they can't see me. Because, hello, my life is amazing. I mean, so it's very difficult touching those points that I chose to forget. I chose that, okay, that's not important. Of course, it did happen to me, but that won't define me. So I choose to delete or maybe erase or hide. I don't even know what the right verb is. I'll still working on it. So going back to those moments was hard, especially when you collect them, because at the very end, I think the last bit, I think I had like one paragraph to finish, and then I kept reading my chapter back and forth to come up with the closing, part of my chapter. That was so painful because I realized how much people just didn't believe in me, and how and I don't think they do that consciously, and I don't even think it's personal. They just do that and they don't realize how much I had to fight for every single inch of space that I ever occupied. And then realizing that their decisions were obviously based on the fact that they didn't value me or my life, because in Brazil it's a life-threatening kind of thing, as much as their peers' lives. And I was like, wow, I was really worth less, in their eyes. So that was really, really painful at the moment. But also at the same time, again, as someone who can ride on positives a lot, I can also ride on negatives. So I was like, okay, let me cry this out because crying is also good. So I also cry, I drink my whiskey, like, and then I have that moment. It's also, I don't know, it cleanses you somehow, also to have that moment. So yeah, it was a roller coaster. And then I got angry. I think there is this what is the steps, you go through. So first you disbelief and
Right,
then
oh, yeah.
you get angry and it's interesting because it has an effect that sometimes you don't even notice. So one of the things that is very important to me is compassion. Compassion, empathy, and nothing makes me angrier than someone who abuses their power, you know. And I really make a point of not becoming a person like that. And in the end, it's probably because it happened to me. So it did make me a very good person. So yeah, it's all connected and it's very complex. Yeah.
So, not wanting to put anyone listening off, because it was traumatic at times for Bunny. And there is an opportunity, Bunny, for another set of performers to step forward and share their story in Spotlight on Success Take Two, which is starting in 2026. So it was cathartic. I mean, I rode that journey with you. I've read your chapter. We are beautifully guided by Louisa, and we're together doing that as a group of humans, performers, business owners, friends together, going through that. So imagine doing that on your own. Like, I'm so glad we were able to support you through that. And then the final product and the final realizations and positives that have come out of that for you are shining through, because it's just opened the next step in the next door. So if you are listening and you're thinking you'd love to get really in your own story, because for the listeners, we explore our whole lives and then we bring it back to 2,500 words for some chapters, 5,000 for bunnies. It's not a lot. So you take out the bits. And Louisa expertly guides us through that and we support each other. And not everybody's had traumatic times. Like, it's all very different. So what would you say to anyone listening, Bunny, who might be considering doing this process with us next time? Has it been what you hoped it would be? Has it opened up, the doors and the self-belief and the accountability and being allowed as you had hoped? What would be your message to anyone considering the journey?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Because actually getting angry is very important. I just had this conversation with someone, and I think that the fact that we had the deadlines and everything. So, because it's so easy for ourselves to let our personal things just fall through when we have other obligations in life, right? So it's like, okay, okay, I'll write a journal, this year. I could have done it alone. But actually, I wake up and I don't know, someone needs help. There is an email, my cats want food. And I was like, okay, I'll journal tomorrow. And then I'll do that tomorrow. So you keep postponing it. So having a group and having someone like, okay, these are the deadlines. You should have written about this. These are the guidelines. Them kind of made me make time for myself to do that and to go through the journey. And it made me way more aware of those things when they happen now. If someone, if I see that or if it happens to me, that someone um, misunderstands me or treats me as less. That doesn't happen anymore because now I own it. Like, no, no way you're doing that to me. So he opened my eyes to that. Plus, I feel like it gave me perspective and allowed myself to feel even better about what I have today. Because sometimes, it's easy to forget those things. Again, especially because I always keep rewriting things in my brain. I look at everything that I am and that I have. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I have so much. And my life is so good, and sometimes you get, why am I so lucky? And when you see people sometimes that they're not as lucky or they're struggling through life and so on, as good people as we are, you feel that, you have empathy and you're like, oh my God, like how can I help? Like how can I do something about that? And why am I so lucky, and they're not? And even you can even have this guilt trip that sometimes I ride. But looking back, I'm like, wait a minute. No, 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 no. I fought for every single thing. I deserve all of the things that I have, and I spread joy as much as I can. So it gives you that perspective, and it allows you to enjoy those things even more. So yeah, I really recommend it to anyone.
And you just mentioned there, this empathy, wanting to help, wanting to spread joy. Your chapter and this book collectively will guide, will inspire, will help. Who would you like your story to inspire? Who would be your ideal reader? And what do you think they may be struggling with right now? And what would you like them to get from your chapter?
Ah, um, that's yeah, I knew you were gonna ask this question. And still, I'm never fully ready for this question. But because I keep looking, at myself back in the past, and I keep thinking, would it have helped me, like would I be inspired by my story, if old me read it? And I don't know because she really didn't really think about like all those things that she could do at the time. Maybe could have given her the extra nudge, like actually, you can do it. Um, but knowing the people I work with, like my students and so on, I think that anyone who feels like they can do more, but they feel stuck, maybe. Because that's something that I felt before getting my burlesque studio. I knew I was meant for more. I knew I could do more. I had this huge amount of energy and love that I wanted to share and nowhere for it to go to. So yeah, I think these people, so anyone who feels like they can do more in life or they want more for themselves in life or feel stuck in some way.
Yeah. And the message is strong. You are allowed. You're allowed it all. And Bunny, you are an absolute powerhouse. I'm so privileged, like I said at the beginning, that you shared your incredible journey and story in the Spotlight on Success book collaboration. As I say, it opens that chapter, rewriting success. You've rewritten, sorry, your story, and then you've written it and put it down, pen on paper to keep it there for generations, performers, entrepreneurs, people, whoever, to pick up and be inspired. And believe you me, you're saying that you don't know who might, people will be inspired. It will give them that extra fire. It will say, I am absolutely capable and I am allowed. So I really am grateful. And I'm so excited to have had this conversation to delve a little bit deeper into Bunny. And a final word from you, my darling. Tell the listeners whatever you need or want them to hear. And we'll also drop Bunny's Instagram handle, website, all of those things in the show notes. So please do go check out Bunny over on social media platforms and everywhere else that we can find her, and in the book as well. Buy the book, ladies and gents listening, buy the book on Amazon. It's called Spotlight on Success when passion meets purpose. And it's got 14 incredible stories inside. Bunny, over to you to finish off the pod.
Yeah, of course, I want to finish with You're Allowed. And it starts, I would say, because it might feel very abstract, right? But I always tell my students that it can start really small. Um, so I remember, and that's one thing. Yeah, we talk a lot about it nowadays, which is the romanticizing your life and things like that. And I actually think that's very important, and so You're Allowed can start with the smallest things. And I remember, especially one student of mine, I recorded a YouTube video and it was about what is that, like that you really want and you are afraid, people will look and judge. Like I have my own picture as my screensaver on my phone. And I remember it was considered cringe, for a while. And I was like, I don't care. I think I look really good in that. And I remember my student, she saw that video and she went on to buy a pen that punches you, it has a little camel or something on top and then it punches, when you press a button. So it can start as small as that. And then you allow yourself the next thing, because we do those things very small and we don't notice. You get into a shop, like while you're waiting for the train and you're like, oh, I really want that chocolate. Oh, but maybe better not. It's like, allow yourself, that chocolate. And then you go to stationery shops, like, oh, that pen is so cute. Oh, but it's very childish, Or what will people think? I know, depending on where you work, you can't, but what will people think of my crazy nails? Like, just allow yourself. Because we do that so often and we don't realize. And the more you allow yourself the small things, it has kind of this ripple effect. You will just grow and you start allowing yourself more and more and more. So yeah, drink the champagne. Life is too short to drink Prosecco, these things.
I want to talk a whole nother half an hour, but because it resonates so much. But Bunny, we're going to leave it there because there's so much for the listeners to digest. And I want them to leave this podcast and go find you, go, bask in all your light over in your socials. Go listen and see what Bunny's up to because she's, as you can hear, brilliant. And you are allowed. And I absolutely love that. Bunny, thank you so much from me and all of the collaborators for being part of this incredible journey.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you for the opportunity. It's fantastic.
There you have it. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Spotlight series, where stories shine and success gets redefined. If you loved what you heard, hit like, follow, or subscribe. And be sure to grab your copy of Spotlight on Success over on Amazon. And don't forget to tag us at PerformerPreneur across all socials. If you've been inspired today to step into a new spotlight, you can find a whole community ready to support you at performerpreneur.co.uk, as well as up-and-coming events and even more about each author. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and continue to shine.